Hey everybody, this is the Theotek podcast on a Tuesday night, and we are joined tonight. We're going to be down a couple at least. I'm Kevin Purcell. I'm your unlovely host, and and
We
then
think
we've
you're
also
lovely.
got, what's that?
We think you're lovely.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. And then we've got Rick Mansfield there from he's from Accordance Bible Software.
Good evening.
And straight out of the wonderful state of Kentucky, my former home. And we may have Antoine jumping on here in just a second. He was, and then got booted off. There he goes. He pops up just as I say it. That was good timing. Tonight what we're going to talk about is going paperless. You know, paper can be expensive. It can kill trees. And my main reason for doing it is it's just annoying and in the way. If I was able to, I would take my camera and show you all the paper around me that I wish I could wave a magic wand and get rid of instantly, old mail and things like that I haven't gone through. But we're going to talk about that and how can you go paperless. And then at the end, I have a beautiful, fancy new phone. Isn't that lovely? I love the fact that it also doubles as a mirror. And so we're going to talk about that as well as automatic. Maybe you've heard that advertised in some podcasts. What is automatic? We'll tell you as we get down to the end of this. And there's Antoine. Antoine, good to see you tonight, buddy.
Hey, guys. Sorry, had a little technical glitch happen right there.
Hey, that's all right. It wouldn't be a Theotek if you didn't get bumped off at least once.
we were afraid that you got pulled back into the future, and we've determined that Wi-Fi is even worse in the future.
Yeah, Wi-Fi seems to have gotten really bad in the future. I think it's because they've got something much better to replace it, and it's sort of like if you had to boot into a Windows 95 computer in order to do one of these. That's kind of what he's dealing with by having to use Wi-Fi. Yeah. So anyway, in case you don't know, we
wants to hear that is that Wi-Fi future.
What's that?
I don't know if Google was ready to hear that because this Chromebook is their Wi-Fi future.
It's their Wi-Fi future. Okay. But let's go ahead and get started. One of the things that, you know, if you want to try to go paperless, the first thing you may need to do is get rid of all the paper you've already got. And a great way to do that is with a trusty scanner. Rick, tell us about your solution. What do you do to clear out the clutter and go paperless by getting rid of the paper you've already got?
Yeah, you know, so you know, paper still abounds everywhere, and so, you know, I can't go to a deacon's meeting at church without coming back with paper, and so, you know, I've got it right here on my desk here. I'm putting my hand on it, but it's too big for me to pick up. I have a ScanSnap IX500 document scanner. I don't know how many pages it holds, but it holds quite a bit. But I can just put those in there, and it automatically turns it into a PDF, turns it into a searchable PDF, which is really nice. You know, back in the old days, go back about 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of the software would convert a document just to plain text. This still looks like the original document, but you can search on it, and so I file all that information away. And you know, a lot of people say, well, what if I need something for legal reasons? A scan of a document is perfectly legal, and so now don't go scanning your marriage license and throwing away the original. That'll get you in trouble. But anything else, you know, like that, rather than having just filing cabinets full of stuff. Just scan it. And I started out with one of the Fujitsu portable scanners. I used to actually carry it with me a lot, but then I kind of graduated up to this because I really just kind of embrace that. My desire is to have less clutter, and you know, and we can get into the nitty gritty of it here in a minute. But you know, churches have the church bulletin. They'll have, like I said, you go to every meeting, you get paper, and there's all kinds of other ways to distribute paper without having to actually print it out and put it in people's hand. Just about everyone today has a cell phone or a tablet of some kind that they carry with them, and that's probably, we can get into more of that later. The Fujitsu ScanSnap I highly recommend.
How much does one of these cost?
I'm not looking at. They're pricey. I think they're at least $400 or more for the full size one. But they're worth it. And it has Wi-Fi too, which is nice. So you don't actually have to have it near your computer. You can have it somewhere else. Just put the documents in there, and then it will scan right to your computer. And you also showed there, just in one of the screens that you had there, there's like there's a mobile app, so you can also have it go straight to your mobile app. When I'm scanning multiple documents, I find it easy to file them on a traditional computer, and then later I can access them on my mobile devices.
Yeah, that's this one. Excuse me. This. Do you see this?
Yeah, we're looking at it.
Nice and big. That's the mobile app. Excuse me. Yeah, that's nice. It's Fujitsu's website. Forgive me there. Suddenly got a scratch in my throat.
All right, we'll edit that out.
Shop online, it's $500. So that is a pricey little item.
It is pricey, but think of all the space you'll save. Think of what you'll eventually save in filing cabinets.
Now, you mentioned a while ago that one of the things that you do is take your books to a local printer. If they're books that you don't really care about having the book, like on the bookshelf.
Right.
You'll cut off the binding and throw those in there.
Yeah. I take them down to like a Kinko's or somewhere. These are books. They don't have sentimental value. Okay. They're books that I would like to have a copy of the book, but I don't have to have a physical copy, and it's usually a book that's not available. So, a lot of books that are from 20 or 30 years ago just aren't available for. A lot of them aren't available in digital form because it was kind of before they were preparing a lot of those books in digital form. We could probably go back probably more like 30 or 40 years ago and earlier. And so I will take those. I'll take those to Kinko's, have them cut off the spine, and I put them in the Fujitsu and just let it scan that, and then I save that PDF. And I've done that to literally to hundreds of books.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting to me. I've not actually gotten around to doing that, but I've got a scanner that I think could handle it, even though it's not a dedicated scanner like that. I'll show you that in a minute. You have any questions on that, Antoine?
No.
Or any thoughts?
No. I used to want one of those. Used to. I actually trimmed my paper in another direction from that in a class that I teach once a month so far this year, that I teach to some realtors and a few other folks in the faith space. We talk about organizational methods to kind of reduce starting people with paper, so that they don't get that paper mess. That you're not giving them a whole handful of paper just because you want them to remember you.
Yeah, I find it so annoying, and the secretary of our association, she's sympathetic to it. So often, if she, we go to a board meeting or something, and she'll hand out, 25 pages of reports and that such, I'll just say, can you email me those? And she almost always has her laptop when she's about to take minutes of the meeting, and she'll, yeah, hang on, I wish that was a norm, but
what I found, Kevin, in groups especially like that, is if you start asking that, at some point they'll be proactive and they'll send it to you anyway, and usually there's someone else who will say, yeah, could you just send it to me too? And before long they're sending it to everyone, because the key is to start out paperless. I have the document scanner because not everyone else is paperless. I have the document scanner because I still have stuff in paper form that I eventually want to get rid of. I'm beyond feeling like I have to have a bunch of books behind me to feel important. I'll let you come look at my hard drive, and then I can feel important.
Imagine if we could get to a point where we actually were no longer tied to the 8.5 by 11 inch.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
that's why I love Evernote.
That's the future.
Start making our documents in widescreen, 4 by 3 or 16 by 9 ratio format so that like everybody is going to be reading them.
Well,
Going forward.
Kevin, you mentioned that, but Microsoft is going that route. To churches who are a big fan of printing out reports or doing PowerPoint presentations. They really do have this really neat new project called Sway.
Yeah.
It's a PowerPoint deck, but it's a PowerPoint deck that is built in the browser. It lives in the browser. It can live in the mobile app. They've got an iPad, iPhone app, Android app versions of this. But it's really designed for those folks who are like, you know what, this content starts digitally. It's linking from other content sources. A lot of times our reports are maybe coming from 2 or 3 different areas. It allows folks who may be wanting to take a gentler step into going paperless to go that route without breaking up some of that fidelity, some of that interactivity that is really necessary.
Yeah, another thought I had while you were saying that, while you were talking there, is the app that we've mentioned multiple times here, going mobile first, and that's this, the Adobe Comp, which is a nice, simple publisher kind of, or PageMaker replacement, or Adobe Illustrator replacement for your tablet. Also works on phones, I think, doesn't it? No, yeah, iPhone, iPad, and iPad Pro.
It's iPad only, and that's mainly a layout engine, but it's
right. But I mean,
great.
We're talking about creativity, creating the forms, using something like this to create a form or a document or a presentation that someone's going to hold in their hands makes a lot more sense if the recipients are primarily going to be looking at it on an iPad or an iPhone screen. And I think this will export to PDF and JPEG files too, won't they?
It'll do PDF for free until April. It'll do JPEGs saved to your photo gallery, and then it will save to your Creative Cloud account.
And I think it works with the $10 Creative Cloud account, doesn't it?
It works with all. It works with all Creative Cloud accounts. So whether you have the free one or the not so free one, it works with all of them.
Whether you're paying $10 or $90 for the super high end that comes with all the free photos in there.
Yeah,
photography library.
Yeah, if you're just doing the free account, the PDF export is going to be free till April. If you're doing the smaller $10 account or anything larger than that, you'll keep the PDF export.
But there's lots of these, like you mentioned, Sway, and you could go with that, and that's free or useful if you have Office. But I really like that.
And then there's Evernote. We really shouldn't miss Evernote because we talked about scanners to begin with, but there you got Scannable right there on the page. Scannable, which is actually built in now. It's now actually built into the Evernote app, which is even better. You don't have. I
use Scannable multiple times a week.
Oh my gosh.
So Scannable is actually in the app now. You don't need to have the separate app.
Right. You can use it separately, but it's built into Evernote.
Right. Because I noticed it doesn't have an Android version. Is it in the Android app, I wonder?
The Android app has a document scanner built into the camera app, and it does documents and Post-it notes and business cards, which is pretty much all that's scannable.
And the Moleskin made for Evernote. It will do these as well. This is a lot of times in meetings I'll take notes in this, and then just as soon as the meeting's over, I immediately transfer it. I know you don't approve of that, Antoine. I know you think I should take my notes onto some device, but sometimes it's easier for me to do that, and then I capture them.
I love on Android you can have this little widget on your home screen.
Yeah.
It's hard for that. I can't get that in real clear, unfortunately, in a decent size. But if you use that, it has. You just tap the little elephant, and of course Evernote just pops up. Then you can do a photo, an audio, a document, and you can customize this widget. There's got 12 or 15 different.
That's in Evernote too. Sorry, that's on the iPhone too.
Yeah.
Right. It's iPhone. It's in the notification.
It's in the widget, the Today widgets. There.
Yeah, and here's Scannable for those folks who are looking at Scannable. So it's real simple. You're just looking at my hand right now. What's really neat about Scannable, which is it's not in the Evernote app, Scannable will actually do multiple scans at the same time and then package them and save them as a PDF into Evernote for you. So you'll get that
Yeah,
scan.
so if you got like 10 sheets,
Right.
you hit one, and it takes a photo, take another photo, and they show up. They sort of line up at the bottom of the screen, don't they?
Yeah.
And then finally, when you get all of them, whether it's 5 or 10 or 50, then you hit the little check mark, and it puts it into Evernote. So that's a great option.
It does an auto recognition of the page size that,
Yes.
you're scanning, which is really neat. There's actually, I found this out yesterday. Actually, we were doing Design Studio, and we were scanning Post-it notes, but it actually does a high contrast scan option as well. So when you're actually shooting it with Scannable, if you need to get something that's a little more high contrast, you need to adjust some of the colors. Maybe you did yellow writing on a white Post-it note kind of thing, or you got a business card that you're scanning and the colors are off. Scannable will actually auto adjust the colors for you. So just like a bigger Snap scanner, it'll actually do some auto adjusting of colors.
And you know what I really use Scannable for is the stuff that's primarily for me, that it doesn't have to be high resolution, and of course actually I'm usually pretty impressed with what it does, you know, and they seem to continue to be improving it, but you know, so it won't do it as sharp as my Fujitsu over here, but it's still, like I said, for my notes, for if I'm just, you know, if I want to digitize something on the you know, if someone hands me a piece of paper and I just want to digitize it right there, I do that. And Evernote store, you know, Evernote had this store that we were talking about before the show started that just, you know, shut down recently, but I really embraced a lot of Evernote stuff. So I mean, I've even got the this is you won't be able to see this, but on the back it says Evernote and Post-it note, you know, and so you know, you can scan these and it'll say Post-it note at the bottom, and I've got the Evernote Moleskine. Moleskine's still going to make these available. Moleskine, and I realize is the correct way to pronounce that, but I just feel funny doing that. You know, and so I find this stuff to be very handy.
Yeah, and if you're not an Evernote fan, you can go with just go to your app store and search for Scanner, and there are gobs of them.
Yeah.
But if you are a big Office
user, an Office Lens, man, that's a good comment.
Yeah.
Dude.
And Office Lens is built into OneNote, correct?
I don't know if it's built into OneNote.
I thought that it was.
Some of the features are in OneNote, not all of them. It's kind of like the whole Scannable Evernote. It's similar in that respect.
Or maybe you use Lens and it sends it. You can have it automatically send to OneNote.
It does automatically send it to it when you can tell it to automatically send. And it's also iPhone and Android. So if any of you guys are Android, any of you watchers, viewers, or listeners are Android users, you can use it on both, which is a nice option. Scannable is not on Android as an independent app, but like we said, you still get document scanning within the Evernote app.
I have nothing against OneNote and some of these Microsoft apps. I'm just so invested into Evernote that's just where I am.
Right, that's where you're at, and then that makes sense. Stay where you're at. There's no good reason to switch from one to the other if you're heavily using.
But I don't knock. I tell folks use these things, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, not being slaves to an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Because if you're using OneNote, if you're using Evernote, if you're using Sway, you know, those formal dimensions really kind of go away.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've talked about getting rid of the paper we've got. Is anything else along those lines, guys? A suggestion you'd make?
Yeah. You know, part of it is, you know, again, with the church having a strategy for the church, because you think, I mean, you don't have to be an environmentalist to want to do this. You could want to do this just to save money, because again, you know, churches produce so much paper. But if you start thinking about some of the regular, everyday tasks, you know, one of the things that we changed at our church, I'm not sure when it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe earlier. But when I first started going to our church, they would mail us, you know, every month the church newsletter. Well, at some point, that I don't even remember the decisions around it now, but that is no longer mailed out that I mean, maybe they mail some to. We do have some folks without email and so forth. So especially some of our older church members, we do have some folks like that. But I get my newsletter in an email. You know, I never see a physical copy of it. It comes in an email. There's a link to go and pull up a PDF. I usually save if I'm on my iPad, I save it to Goodreader or something, and you know, and read it there. But you know, but you think about these things. Think about these tasks in your church that you do this over and over and over again, and there's just it becomes expensive. You know, look into your budget, see how much you're spending every year just on paper, and it'll probably surprise you. So that's one aspect. You know, if you have a church bulletin, church program, so we haven't done this yet, but I would like to see us do this, to where, you know, I think for the church bulletin, we ought to have an email list for the church bulletin. Let it get sent out on Friday, because it's prepared by then. So let that get sent out by Friday to those who would prefer to get it that way. That's going to do a couple of things. Not only is that already in everyone's hand, and they can look at it ahead of time, which is nice, but the second aspect of it is that for people who don't come that particular week, that's kind of a mini newsletter. That allows them to look at some of that content even if they're not going to be there. And again, I go into the church service, and I've got not only an iPhone, but I've also got an iPad Pro. I can pull all that up myself. I don't have to have something printed for me. You're probably still going to need a few, you know, have a few, but link them from your website. Have a few printed for perhaps some of your members who don't have email, for visitors or something like that. But I think I bet you in the average church, you know, anywhere from 50% to 75% could rely on something like the church bulletin being emailed to them rather than being put into their hand as they walk in the door.
Here's another option for that. Antoine, you go ahead, and then I've got something to say.
One of the things that since I'm now back in Maryland, I'm actually back at my old church. My church is fairly large. We'll just say we're fairly large. There are standing room only for 3 services, and it's 700 folks in the sanctuary. One of the things that the church has done, and it is really cool because it did it back when I was here 8 years ago, and now that I'm back, is that they actually collect. There's a small tray on outside of all the exit doors. The exit when you're exiting the sanctuary. The bulletin is a 4x6 card, and it's designed for our visitors more than anything else. But it's kind of a hello, how you doing? These are the quick things going on. Get everything else online. But what they, you know, subtly do is they actually have you put the bulletin on that tray to collect it after every service. So the bulletins that weren't used at the 8 o'clock service get recycled and given back out at the 9:15 service. Ones that weren't used at 9:15 get recycled for the 11 o'clock service. And the thing is, they run out of bulletins at the 11 o'clock service, because that's kind of the point. They don't print so many, but the goal is to print enough that you get stuff back. And you know, obviously on some of our bigger Sundays, you know, we obviously will print some more. You know, Easter's coming up, and we'll probably have 20 million phone book size of stuff. But that was one of the things that they do to actually not so much reduce paper, but reduce the reliance on paper for those people who don't need it after the service is over. You know, maybe you want that in your hand while the announcements are going on, all 3 3/4 minutes of it. But then after that, you're pretty much like, oh, okay, they explained it. I can go give this back, and therefore we don't even have litter in the sanctuary or anything of that sort, which is pretty cool for cleanup.
Well, you talked about the paperless bulletin idea, and I think we've mentioned this before, but you know, Bible.com or uversion.com, depending on which way you want to get there. You know, they have the live service that they use, and we can actually go into one that's live right now. You open that up and see. Notice it gives you. Now this one's just using it for Bible text and notes, and then they have questions and prayer requests here. You can also add announcements. So pretty much anything you would put in a church bulletin, you can set this up. And the way you get there is, you know, if you go to the uversion.com, you know, through Bible.com, just click on this live, and if you're signed in, then you can create your own set up your church for one. And so we can look at this as another one. Guest speaker here. They have an about the church and ways to share it to Facebook, notes, give online links, which are pretty handy. And so it's like a church bulletin, only it's in your phone or your tablet if you have the Bible app from YouVersion, which I like that. Another option that's similar to that, not exactly, but for those of you who might be the Logos fanatics, you can go with Proclaim Online, and they have a similar feature. You can build out presentations for your church with Proclaim Online. It's a subscription fee. It's fairly expensive, kind of a little bit clunky, to be honest with you. I haven't used it in a long time, so it may have gotten better. But they also have a thing, if you have the Logos Bible app on your phone, they have where these signals will not just go to the screen, but they'll also come up on your phone while you're looking at it. And it's got links for announcements and giving and all these kinds of things. So those are a couple more options to save some money and time and printing. But distributing electronic newsletters is a wonderful thing, especially if you are limited in volunteer time. You only have one volunteer doing the newsletter. What if she no longer had to copy, collate, and address 1,000 newsletters, 500 or 200 newsletters? What if all she had to do was create it in something like MailChimp or whatever those services are, and hit boom, and it goes out? So those are some options as well that I think are really useful. We notice we have our fourth, LaRosa is joining us. LaRosa from Olive Tree Bible Software, and joined us a little bit late, but that's fine. We're better late than never, right?
Yeah, I was on the phone with my parents, so I had to talk.
Well, we're glad you're here. You got any thoughts on this? We've talked about using scanners. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention my scanner. It's not as powerful and heavy duty as that Fujitsu that we showed you, but I love Epson. I think they're great printers. They're slow, but they produce wonderful pictures, and that's the reason I like it. And this has a fairly nice scanner built into it that's dual-sided. Did we say that, Rick? Whether the emphasis on
I don't think we did, but that's an
scanner?
important point to make.
Yeah, it's dual-sided. In other words, it takes a picture of both the front and the back of the page at one time while it's going through, instead of having to go through twice.
Yeah. Any document scanner you're going to invest in, whether it's like that Epson or a Fujitsu, you want to make sure that it scans both sides, because you don't want to have to then turn everything around, scan it again, make sure it's in the right order. That's a big pain. You want it to be scanning both sides at the same time.
So I hope, when I get these crazy, statements. This is my wife's insurance, or not insurance, but no, that's not. That's a T-Mobile bill. Anyway. When I get her insurance or retirement, she gets them by paper. I don't know if she's not got an option for digital, but she doesn't make use of it. My hope is that I'll stack these in a thing and I'll just feed them all through there. And it has SD card storage, so I don't even have to have it hooked up to the computer for this to work. It just pops it on that SD card, and after every so often I'll pull that SD card out, put it into my computer, or I can do it through Finder on my Mac or Windows Explorer on my PC. It shows up as just a drive on there as well if it's connected, which I leave it connected to my desktop system here most of the time. So this is also a nice option, and it's only $200 instead of $500 like that other one. But that other one, if you want to do like he's talking about with books, get the other one. Don't get this one. If you got high volume like Rick does, go with that other one.
And what you just said there, Kevin, makes me also think about, in terms of books. I teach a Bible study at church on Sunday mornings, and there's probably 30 to 40 in the class. Probably the majority still want that old, paper curriculum, that we use to explore the Bible. So we get that for those folks. But I've gotten about 10 people in the class who will get the digital edition, and so we make the digital edition available. And Lifeway's done a really good job about this, about making all their curriculum available digitally. Now they still have the print version too, and some people just want to have that book in their hand. It's hard to break that, but you know, I the thing I like about it is, you know, you can keep those. We always used to throw those Sunday school books away, which is wasteful too. You can keep these; they aren't taking up any space. They cost the church less. And again, that's all of this. You know, that's a repeating factor with all of this stuff for a church. You don't have to be an environmentalist to embrace this. You can just be someone who likes to save money. This, you know, going digital, going paperless is much cheaper.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For the most part, my church has gone digital and paperless as far as the members are concerned. Like, they don't do any bulletins on Sunday. Like, we've got one little pamphlet that we've had printed up professionally for new members that just kind of want more information about the church. But they make general announcements on Sunday morning from the pulpit. And they're like, get the newsletter. And that's where all the information comes. Then, like, any kind of documents that have to be sent out, it's sent out via email. If you need a print copy, then they'll give you one. But otherwise, you're getting everything digitally.
What's the technology? I just can't think of it, that became all the buzz last year. Where if you on your phone, you can walk into an area and there's a wireless signal that your phone will pick up and something pops up. What's that called?
iBeacon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can imagine setting up an iBeacon for your church, you know, visitors to come in and get that new member pamphlet that way. You're shaking your head no. Is that a bad idea?
In the U.S., it's not something that we would do very often. However, to our friends, if we have anybody who's in southern areas of Europe, Africa, India, doing Bluetooth broadcasting, nearcasting is actually fairly common, quite common, in fact, and usually done from a netbook, which is really interesting too. But but yeah, if that's something that you would definitely employ with your church.
But you know what? Apple doesn't have it turned on that you can use it. But most Android phones, I think today, still have NFC, don't they?
Well, NFC is just near field. That's 10 to 30 centimeters for beacons.
Right, but I mean, you could imagine having like a kiosk in the front of the church that says, "Please touch your phone to this device," and I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work, but it's an idea.
Oh no, you're right. You're actually right. There are a couple companies that do beacons, iBeacons, that have NFC attached to them as well, so they kind of hit both platforms.
But what it is that, in case people don't understand what we're talking about, and we'll put a link somewhere in the notes on Theotek.com that you can find out about it. But what it is your phone has this wireless technology built into it that, as long as it comes within close proximity of the iBeacon or almost within tapping distance, you know, I mean, you almost literally have to touch the phone onto the NFC, you know, chip, and it sends a link to your phone that can do something. And then what I'm talking about is, imagine doing it where it would pop up with, you know, that digital information about the church for new members or visiting people or folks who haven't been there in a while and are coming back to check it out or something like that. So, you know, they can tell you about the service times and who the pastor is and how long they've been there and what services they've got available and where the bathrooms are with a map or something like that.
If you are any of our listeners who have Walmart's application, that feature is actually going to be rolled out this calendar year, within Walmart's application, so that you can actually look at the app, see where you are in the store, and see where the deals are. Home Depot is also, and Lowe's are also putting that together, so you can find the screws, kind of, if you will, when you're walking through the door. So that option is definitely out there for churches who want to employ it. There aren't any organizations, companies that are actually pushing iBeacon fairly heavily, and it's mainly because of that permissions issue. But it's really, it's definitely an option, at least to get people aware of your content.
Well, let's talk about this. You know, we've talked about dealing with the clutter and then also creating things digitally to save time or money, or, you know, if you're an environmentalist, to save the trees. What about, we talk a lot on this show about taking notes on your tablet or phone and then also using a digital Bible app on a tablet or phone to to read your Bible and study in church. But here's my question: what about a lot of churches are still going to have that person from the former generations that are going to say, if you've got something electronic open in your lap at church, then you're not paying attention. They don't care what it is. How do you deal with that issue? Because we all know on this show, obviously, that that's not the case. And in fact, I'm more engaged when I've got my tablet open and I'm taking notes. That's the whole reason. I actually don't listen to sermons and take notes in order to save that sermon note for later, unless it's just a really outstanding sermon. What I'm doing it is to keep myself engaged in the sermon. So why do people, what do you say to them? What do you do to them? Antoine, you're chomping at the bit to answer this one, so go first.
I'm totally sitting back waiting for you guys to answer this.
I think my main question would be just asking people that have that problem and asking them first and foremost, okay, what are you doing with your notebook and pen in your paper Bible? And ask them those things like, okay, you're taking notes on the sermon, you're flipping through your Bible. I'm doing those exact same things. My tablet's on airplane mode. I'm not getting any notifications or phone calls. I'm not checking Facebook. It's like I'm doing the exact same thing. And I mean, yes, there are some of the people that are tweeting.
Let me play devil's advocate with you, LaRosa, just so we can have a conversation about this to demonstrate what we might say. All right, I'm old Uncle Joe who doesn't like it, right? Yeah, you say that, but I see those people. They're checking their email and they're getting on Facebook and they're shopping on Amazon. I see it do it.
So, Uncle Joe, when you stop paying attention to other people, can you tell me what the sermon was about?
Okay, that's a good answer. Now frame it in a way that Uncle Joe doesn't slap you and then walk out and never come back.
That's the problem. I don't really get that one.
Well, I think for that one, if there are people that are actually doing that, you're well within your rights to legitimately confront them about their use of email and Facebook. Or
okay, so you would say, well, look, if
church
they're really doing that, then maybe you could say something to them about how it's distracting you. And
yeah,
it might not be an issue.
I would do the same thing.
Well, I mean, I admit, to being the guilty party. At times. I try very hard not to do that. And I will try. I don't know if I've gone to airplane mode because sometimes I'm texting our music minister back and forth. But but I do try not to. I try to stay like I've got my Bible app open, which is Accordance. Yeah, I've got Accordance open, but I mean always. I mean even back when it was just a physical Bible that I was looking at, I could still get bored then too. I could still distract myself. I often joked out, that if it got too boring, I was looking at the book of maps. That's just always something that has been there, and now it's even better because I've got Accordance and I've got just thousands of materials, that I can access. What I really enjoy doing though, and some would say this is not on task, but I think also though it's I know from times when I've been teaching, when I've been preaching, if I knew someone was doing this, I would say that's exactly right. You ought to be doing this kind of thing. What I'll do though is if I get interested in something that I've heard and it's intrigued me, like maybe it's something about a particular passage, I'll start opening up commentaries. I'll start looking at those, and so I'm studying that. I'm learning it. Now, while I'm doing that, am I hearing everything that's being said? No, not necessarily. But at the same time, it's a productive exercise, and that's no different than people having a study Bible and looking at the notes at the bottom of it. But I think there's another aspect of this too, and this is something I had to deal with as a teaching college classes, which I occasionally do. The students today have laptops or tablets in the classroom, and when they have laptops, those laptops are up and all you see is the back of them, and I know for certain that there have been times where people are just goofing off, and I can remember being in college myself back in the 1800s, and I had instructors who were just jerks, who who if you weren't just locked in with eye contact at all time, unless you were taking notes, they'd throw a fit if they thought you were doing anything else, and that was before there were laptops. But I kind of came to the conclusion, these people are adults. If they're not going to pay attention, that's on them. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. Now, in the classroom, one thing that I do, and a pastor can do this too, but one thing I do in the classroom is I often teach from behind the class. I will walk around, but I'll also go to the back behind people, especially if I have content up on a screen. If I have content up on a screen, I don't want their attention on me. I want their attention on whatever I thought important enough to put up on the screen at the time. And so once you walk behind them, people aren't going to play YouTube videos. They're not going to be on Facebook when they think, oh, he might see what I'm doing. Now, again, I'm not really doing it for that, but I find that often, that often takes care of that. Now, for a pastor to do that, a pastor's got to figure out if a pastor's closely following notes. Can you do that and walk around and that kind of thing? You're going to have to think about that. But real quick, one thing I've done when I'm teaching is usually what I've done is I've got a device connected to the projector, and then I'm controlling it from my phone or some other device, and so I actually see my notes where I am. So.
Okay, Antoine.
So usually, because I still get that question at different places that I visit, why are you playing on Twitter and Facebook? Usually it's because you said something and I want to share that with everybody else. But to Uncle Fred or Grandma Jemima or whomever wants to ask a question about me using digital technology, over the years I've published all of my notes, my sermon notes, my Bible study notes. They all get published online and publicly so that folks can read my personal comments and critiques and links and all that other good fun stuff. And I usually challenge that person. I say, well, if you're concerned that I might be doing something else, I said there are two ways, for us to address that. There's the rebuke, obviously, that has to come with that. But then there's also the correction. Here are my notes. These are the things that I was observing, listening to, talking to during the sermon. Is there anything in these notes that you have any comments, considerations towards that I should be a little bit more focused to? And usually I get the opposite reaction of, how the heck did you type so much? Wait a minute, you actually recorded all of that? I don't remember that being said. I said, well, I was paying attention, and on Twitter and in Facebook and doing a Google query on this and oh, and I had enough time to transpose it from TiddlyWiki into a website. Yeah, and so there's an education that I try to open the door to, and I think that we have to open the door to when we say we can go bookless or paperless with our notes, that we have to have listen to the rebuke, but be open to also turn it into a teachable moment. That it's not just you can't be distracted. No, you are distracted. Everybody is distracted. 22 minutes in, that's it. Everybody's distracted. At that point, that we acknowledge that everybody gets distracted. What are the proactive steps or the productive steps that we can take to either help one another not be distracted, or at least put ourselves in a position not to distract others?
Well, let me kind of put an exclamation point on this part of the discussion before we jump to our favorite things.
I can't see you, Kevin. Kevin, your screen is black.
Is it?
Is that just me, or can you guys see that too?
You can see him?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what I was going to say was I think one of the things that we need to do is, if as a pastor, or as a church leader who's often up in front of the congregation, I think we should give permission, first of all. And then second of all, when the objectors come, we need to deal with them in a friendly, Christ-like, loving, and not let's not look down our digital noses at them, just because they're different. Now, if they become to the point where, they're obstinate about it, you might want to deal with that. And maybe there's a community of believers who, as a group, are going to say, we don't want digital in our service. That's the right of a local body of believers. If they want to say, come to First Baptist Church of Luddites, that's fine, and they can be that way, and I don't have a problem with that. If I was a pastor, I would be uncomfortable with it and probably would begin to look elsewhere. If I was a church member, I would again be uncomfortable with that and begin to look elsewhere. But that's perfectly legitimate for a community of believers to make that choice as a group. Let me however, just kind of end this with a couple of recommendations. We talk about Bible apps. We've talked Bible apps here a lot. Of course, we've got Accordance and Olive Tree represented here, both excellent digital Bible apps for iPad and for your iPhone, your Android devices, on your computers. Those are all great choices. I personally use the Logos Bible app more because that's where I've got most of my books. But there's tons of those things. But one of the ones I want to make a recommendation to you about, I'm just going to say it real quick. We don't have a whole lot of time to go into too much depth, and that's the Bible Note Pro. And this is actually a great little thing that you can install into Microsoft's OneNote. And while I like it, the creator of this, I've interacted with him, he kind of has this idea that you're going to type notes into this. But I love the fact that you can bring up the pen and start to write in the margins. And it's got plenty of room that you can add space around this. And so I can actually do note margins just like I used to do in my old paper Bibles. Now I can do it digitally. And it comes with a few different translations. Let me just show you the modules real quickly. They've got English modules in King James, New King James, ESV, and the New English and the NIV. And so it's limited in the modules, but my experience is there's one of those, somebody's going to be happy with one of those. And then they've got some other things if you want to actually do some study. I don't find those as useful because I'm going to pull up, for me, I'm going to pull up either Logos or Olive Tree when I do my study on my iPad, or Accordance on occasion when I've got a book that I need that I don't have elsewhere. That's not what I wanted to show you. Anyway, so that's one thing. And then, of course, we had a discussion through our local chat group for our group, a recommendation for a note-taking app. Paper is a great one. I personally prefer Notability just because it's so good that I've got my Android phone with me, but I just choose this because it's so much better than every other note-taking app, in my opinion. And you talked about scanning. You can scan documents into Notability and start marking them up as well, and then export them in PDF and other formats like that. So that's sort of, I'm jumping into my favorite things, and so those are two things I would recommend: Notability and the OneNote Bible. Anybody got just a real quick hit recommendation along those lines?
Penultimate does very, very similar. So for those who are in the Evernote universe, Penultimate allows you to snap photos of items or bring in from your photo gallery, image gallery, images, and then mark those up right inside of Penultimate. As a note-taking app, I personally like its ink. Reminds me of an old calligraphy pen that I used to use. I use it.
Like what?
Old calligraphy pen. I like calligraphy.
So there's an app or something called Old Calligraphy Pen?
No. Calligraphy pens.
Oh.
You know the old scribble that I used to.
I know what a calligraphy pen is. I was asking. Okay, I'm not tracking with you. I thought you were giving a digital recommendation.
Yeah, Penultimate is the recommendation, but it acts like an
Penultimate has calligraphy pen track in it. Okay, I get it now. I'm sorry.
Penultimate writes like a calligraphy pen.
Yes, it does. It automatically kind of puts some of those flourishes in there.
Yeah.
As if you have a calligraphy nib on a pen.
Yeah. I enjoy it very much. That would be considered my favorite thing.
All right. Anybody else?
Mine would be this little thing right here. It's a Raspberry Pi. We've talked about it off and on before, but just that you can do something different.
Before you jump on your favorite thing, that's something you would use for note-taking in church? or
Oh.
digital note taking?
No.
Oh, okay. That's what I was talking. We'll get onto our favorite things here in just a second.
Oh, no, for note taking, I use I was using Penultimate, but I've just switched over to Notability.
How do you like it?
Loving it so far. It works much better for me as far as the way I write, and now that I got the pencil from 53, it's working really well.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. The pencil, that was your favorite thing. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump on those our favorite things and share with us your little device you had there, La Rosa.
Oh yeah, this is just a Raspberry Pi.
The newest one?
This is the Raspberry Pi 2. Haven't gotten the newest one yet, but just because you can just do something a little fun, do-it-yourself projects, build a little server. Like I've got one in my living room under the entertainment center that's running as my. I've got a Pocket replacement, so like Pocket.com. I've got my own Read It Later service set up with that, and then I've also got my own RSS reader set up using the Raspberry Pi. Then I plan on setting this one up as a game emulator, so some of those old Nintendo, Super Nintendo games, I plan on running some of those on here. So yeah, just lots of different little fun things that you can do with those for very little money.
Cool. And those aren't cheap. Those aren't expensive either. They're what, about $30 each?
Like $30-$40.
And then there's a new one that includes Wi-Fi and a little bit faster processor and what else is on the new one that the other one didn't? The 2 doesn't have.
I think it's got a Bluetooth on there too.
Is it Bluetooth? Okay, I knew there was about 2 or 3 things that it updated. So, and again, they're cheap and you can actually just use it as a little Linux computer if you want.
Yeah.
Plug in a keyboard and a mouse and hook it up through HDMI to a monitor, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Antoine, you got one, real quick?
Yeah, I guess I should walk over to it because I'm not going to pick it up anytime soon.
Okay.
But my favorite thing.
Did you get an electric car?
Hi there.
So my favorite thing. Oops, let me turn the light on so you guys can see this as well. But,
Who said
my
hi
favorite
there?
thing-
I heard a female voice.
Yeah, you did. There's my favorite thing right there. Alexa, say hello.
Hello.
So this is my
People's
Amazon.
Alexas all over the internet and all over the world just now stopped and said hello.
Yes, they did. I learned well from the Super Bowl commercial. But that's my favorite thing. You know, Amazon Echo has been a really pretty neat tool. It's actually become a replacement for television to me. I use it. I've got a 7-minute workout coach that I do every day with it during the weekdays. Music to-do list, gives me my traffic report in the morning, and I'm very much considering purchasing the Echo Dot, which is the smaller version of the Echo, so that I can actually have an Echo in a separate room, which would be pretty neat. But I've found it just to be usable voice technology, so it's something that just kind of blends in. I don't really think about it. You know, when I come in, it's just asking Alexa to do something, and it's great. I mean, even goes as far as Alexa does a drum roll if you ask her to do a drum roll, which is really pretty cool.
Yeah, let me just say one thing real quick. You mentioned the Echo Dot, and they also have another one. What's the other one called? The
box thing, the jam box looking thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let me just say this real clearly. You might want to turn this up. Alexa, order an Echo Dot.
Nope, not happening. Way in the other room.
All over the place, Amazon Echoes are telling them that they are ordering
Now,
an Echo Dot.
what's the distinction here between these? I haven't had a chance to look at them.
Size.
Well, besides size.
The Dot has a 3.5 millimeter jack, so you can plug it into your stereo system.
Right, you can plug it into your stereo and use the speakers of your stereo.
Does
to
the
play
Dot
music.
does it do everything that the regular Echo does?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So why would you want to get the Echo instead of the Echo Dot?
You cannot buy the Dot unless you're on Prime. and order
Okay.
the Alexa.
And also the
Or
Amazon
Amazon
the Echo has a really nice speaker array that for a single non-stereo speaker system, it actually has very good quality sound. I have one in my bedroom, and I really like it. I wish I would think to use it more. I don't know why. I just don't think to use it as much as I thought I would or should. But I ain't getting rid of it because I love it, and when I do use it, I'm pretty impressed. I often will just get a weather report and check the news and sports and things like that in the morning. So I put my wholehearted recommendation behind that as well.
I would definitely recommend to anyone who's looking at getting the Echo or the Echo Dot to not just think about the Echo by itself. Think about other things that can be enabled by voice in your home. Like one of the things I'll be getting is the Wiimote light switches for the outlets, so that I can go ahead and turn room lights on and off by voice as well. There's some if you have a Nest or Honeywell thermostat, there's some integrations with that, so you can have Alexa turn up and turn down the temperature as you need, garage door openers, all that kind of fun stuff. Think about it holistically, not just as another piece of tech, but as something that kind of adds some character to your home, and you end up finding that it works and works very well.
And for mobility purposes, get the Tap.
Yeah.
The Tap is the same thing, only it's basically a portable a Bluetooth speaker with Amazon Echo built into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit more, but that's actually the one I went ahead and got one of those, or I will be getting one when it comes. It's a little bit more, but I'm wanting to bring it with me and have it with me.
What color did you order?
Office. What's that?
What color did you order?
Well, it only comes in one color. These are some.
Those are covers.
Yeah, you can put them on. I didn't get one, I don't think, unless they just come with it. I didn't think to look what I ordered. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the whole Amazon Echo thing. I honestly, if you'll remember back at the beginning of the year when we were talking about, what are the big stories going to be, my prediction was that Amazon Echo would be one of the big stories of this year, that it would really sort of go everywhere. And what I really want them to see is I want them to put that technology in their app for the phones. I would love it if you could walk around with your Android phone and have the Echo app, because it's so much better than Siri or Google Plus or Google Now. It's just a lot better.
There are some companies that are building in the Alexa sound engine into their services. A few of them were announced at CES. There's actually a Brita water filter that kind of piggybacks on the Amazon Dash service and the Alexa voice service to basically let you know when you need to purchase a brand new filter. It's a Wi-Fi connected water filter, which is pretty slick.
I would want to be able to say, Britta, pour me a glass of water.
I'm sure Britta would like to do that as well.
Hey, there's no reason why that couldn't potentially take place. I mean, that could happen at some point. I don't think it's going to happen this year or anything, but anyway. All right, Rick?
Yeah. I just got this past week. This is the automatic car adapter. And this is you plug this into that port that's underneath your steering wheel, and it does a lot of things. If you have those engine codes, it will. If you go to just automatic.com, it'll probably show you some better pictures there, Kevin. But there's an app that goes with it. It's available for both iOS and Android. And so, you get the full connected car. This works on just about any vehicle from the late 90s to today. And I've got a 2001 Toyota Tundra, and it works in that. I was getting an engine light code on.
And his automatic frozen. Or am I the one frozen?
No, you're there.
No, it's Rick, huh? Okay. Well, let me do my best here to tell you what's going on here. I was working on something in the background, but you plug it into your ODB. Is that the right term for it? ODB connector port on your car. You can see it right there. They plug it in, and it connects with this app on your phone. I don't have one. I've not used it, but I've used something similar to this. Unfortunately, it was not compatible with my Honda CR-V, so it didn't do hardly anything. And then my son tried it in his car, and it didn't work at all with his. But this one, from what I understand, is a lot more compatible. And it'll check your engine codes, and it'll tell you how bad you're driving. Rick was telling me before the show started tonight that he told me what his score was. I won't tell on him in case he doesn't want us to know, but it could have been better. And then locate where your parked car is, and so if you lose it or something like that, that's a neat thing. I guess it would find your car if you were in desperate, like someone stole it and didn't know that the thing was plugged in. I don't know. I suppose that might happen. I know there's others like this. I think isn't Verizon coming out with something similar to this? But Rick has a code.
Progressive does it. There are a few companies that do it.
It's got smartwatch capabilities built in.
Yeah.
Rick has a code, and we'll have that code on our website. If you click the link from Theotek.com when I get the show notes up, you can save $20 off of this $99.95 price. So you can get it for $80 instead of $100.
Not Android Wear.
Say that?
I said Apple Watch and Pebble, but not Android Wear.
Well, yeah, that's, I don't understand why that is. If I was picking a watch to use, I would go with Pebble or Android Wear first over Pebble, but maybe they went with Pebble first and then added Android or Apple later.
It has to do with Android Wear. There are just a few things in terms of Bluetooth information that Android Wear doesn't support out of the box.
Yeah, but I don't think that any of those would have a problem with this, because there are other ones that have Android Wear capability. There are other devices.
It's up to the developers what they end up supporting there.
Right. And it just depends. Maybe they don't have anybody on their team that owns anything other than an iPhone. Rick, we tried to tell about your thing. Anything real quickly? We went through the basic features of it while you were out.
Let me show you the screen real quick, and I apologize for that. That was a technical difficulty. That was my fault. It's important to plug your computer in before you do a podcast. But let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna try to share this here. Well, that's not.
While you're doing that, I told him about your code, and I said that it would be in our show notes. So.
Yeah. There's a discount code. I was getting a. Can you see this? Can you see my screen here?
We see you.
You just see me. Okay. Let's try this again. Well, we'll say entire screen. I was getting a. Now can you see it? Can you see my app there? Okay, so this is from my iPhone. I was getting an engine code. The orange light came on, and my mechanic had told me what it was, but this confirmed that. I trust my mechanic, but it's a great way to confirm it. And whereas he didn't turn off the orange light, the check engine light, because he wanted me to come back in and get that catalytic converter fixed. I was able to turn it off with this. But anyway, this shows you since Saturday. It shows how much each time I've gotten in my Toyota Tundra and gone somewhere. It shows how much it cost. It shows if I've had any hard brakes or hard accels or anything like that. Now it grades you. You see my grade up at the top is not all that great. But it docks you if you go over 70 miles an hour, and I get on Interstate 64 and the speed limit's 70. If I went under 70, I'd probably get hit by someone. But it's a great way to get an estimate. So just between Saturday and today, Tuesday, I've spent almost $10 in fuel. What's funny is though, or it's not really funny, it's more sad. You see my miles per gallon is really bad on this Toyota truck. But you can tap on the car and it'll tell you if there's any, if you have a check engine light, it will give you the details of what it's about. And if you're on the side of the road, you can click on nearby mechanics and it'll find that for you. Let me go back here. It will show you kind of some daily stats and so forth. So anyway, it's a great way to, and you can also send that information as well. I think it'll even export some PDFs and things like that. But it's a great it's a great way to to find out what's going on with your vehicle, how much money you're spending, things like that. Especially if you have an older car that just doesn't automatically have all that information on the dash, which a lot of the newer cars do.
Well, I told you guys last week that I would be getting the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, and I showed it at the beginning of the show, but here it is. You can even see how magnetic it is. This is the gold version. I think that's the proper name that they're giving this color. This is a beautiful, amazing phone. I mean, I just am really tickled to death with it. First of all, it feels really great in the hand. The Edge feature is much improved. If you've ever used one of these Edge phones, the previous to this, I think the Edge was sort of a wasted gimmick, but they've improved it a lot, made it a lot more useful. It's got contacts and your date, a calendar for the day. You can check out Twitter things. It's got news, and I mean, there's just lots of different options in it. The main thing that I like about this, though, is the camera is outstanding. Now, I want to show you a picture I took. Before I show it to you, I'm going to tell you this picture doesn't look great, but I'll show it to you here. Here's the photo. This is my son playing some tennis tonight. He won. He is the first seed for Jimmy C. Drawn High School this year, and he won his first singles set 6-1, 6-1. Absolutely trounced the other kid. And then he won his doubles match 6-2. And so I'm proud of him. He played 3 matches and only lost 4 games. And I credit that to my wonderful coaching ability. No, I'm kidding. But notice I'm taking this shot from behind a fence. And I also want you to know, you see how blown out the sky is, okay? This was about, let's see, I want to say probably 6:15 at night. And where we are, 6:15 at night does not look this bright. It was much darker, and they did not yet have the lights on. And so I was just really impressed that I was able to get, I mean, this almost looks like just an overcast afternoon. But this is when it's beginning to get very dark. So that's just one example of how good the camera is. It's an f1.8 camera on it.
What's the iPhone? Isn't the iPhone a 1.7? Is that correct?
No, the iPhone's a 2 point something.
Oh, okay.
It blows away the iPhone camera. I until this I had the Note 5, which also has a great camera, but the iPhone just took better pictures than the Note 5. This one, the pictures are just so much better, and I'm really pleased with it. I'm extremely happy with the phone. See if I can find. Now this was one I took that you're aiming right into the sunlight. The sun is like right above here, and so it's incredibly difficult. Now this is a video actually, and that weird warping. We're not sure exactly what that was, but so it's hard to get good video behind a fence like this. But so anyway, I'm pleased with it. Here's another shot, getting a little bit better. But that's one example. Here's a shot I took of the chapel where my son is a student. I didn't frame it very well because I was taking this from my car, looking out the window of it. But I'm really impressed with the camera on this thing. It's a lot faster than the previous Galaxy devices. So I know I'm talking to a couple of iPhone guys and somebody.
Yeah, but it's the camera that intrigued me the most, Kevin. And so would you say that this is probably the best smartphone camera right now in the market?
Well, I haven't used all of them, but I've used a lot of them, and yes, I would say that The iPhone, if you have an iPhone camera, don't go upgrading just to get this camera. Because your iPhone 6S Plus camera is awesome. It's a great camera. But if you decide you want to go Android and one of the main things you want is a great camera, then this is the phone to get. Now, a lot of people don't like the Edge because it is sort of a different kind of philosophy. So the problem that I have is I wish that Samsung had made the Samsung Galaxy S7 the same size with the same battery. This has a much bigger battery than the S7, the non-Edge version of it. And also it has the non-Edge version, the S7, has a smaller screen. It's a 5-inch screen instead of a 5.5-inch screen. So you put the 5.5-inch screen on here, plus the fact that there's no bezel whatsoever along the edge, hence the name Edge. You're holding a normal-sized device in your hand. Here's my iPhone 6S Plus, and same size screen, but much bigger phone.
Do you find yourself accidentally launching apps because of the way that the screen goes right to the edge?
I don't. I've heard people who have this phone say they have problems with it, but I haven't. I've never had that problem. In fact,
evidently those other people are holding it wrong. That's an iPhone 4 joke.
Or maybe mine, for some reason, maybe mine's just not as sensitive as theirs. I don't know. I've not had any issues with it. When I'm just reading it, I kind of hold it like this, where it's sort of resting on here, and I've got my finger down here to hold it. So I don't know. It feels light and sturdy. The build quality is excellent. It's waterproof to a certain degree, so if I drop it, in the toilet on accident, I can pick it back up, rinse it off in the sink, and I'm good to go.
Or if you go swimming with it.
I wouldn't go swimming with it, but you could if you. When I first got one of my first cell phones, not my first cell phone, one of my first smartphones was one of those pocket PCs a long time ago. I put it in my pocket, and we went to a pool party, and I walked into the pool with the phone in my pocket. You could do that with this phone as long as you realized it without diving into the deep end, and it would come out just fine.
No, that phone is good down. That phone is good for at least a couple meters for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's like up to 6 feet, I think.
Yeah, so you can go diving in deep in with that. You'll be just fine.
Yeah, and I like the always-on time feature.
Yeah, I like that.
And it does not degrade the battery. I've been getting great battery life. Now you show that I'm at 22%. That's because I used it for almost an hour taking video of my son. It went from about 60% down to about 5%.
Samsung uses those AMOLED screens, so it's definitely not going to run down the battery because all the are off.
It's better than the Note 5 battery. It's better than my iPhone 6S Plus battery. So I think the battery is fine. I would not have gotten the S7 just because it's got a smaller battery, and I would have been fearful of it. But based on the battery life on this, I think the S7 without the Edge feature would probably be just as good. The battery would probably be just as good, as long as you didn't have to, push it really hard all day long. So,
Evan, one last question. Are you going to put it in a case?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna let it go au naturel. That's the way I like most of my phones. The only reason I have this one in a case is I dropped it, and it scared me, and so I said I'm gonna keep it in a case. I don't have a case for that one yet, and I don't have any strong desire to go buy one. And chances are very good I will probably take my iPhone out of the case because I just don't like cases. Just don't like them. They don't feel good. So I know I'm tempting fate. By the way, if you are a T-Mobile customer like I am, and I think all of us are now, you can pre-order this or you can order it on T-Mobile. You're not pre-ordering anymore. They say pre-order, but you'll actually get it pretty quickly. It's not the 11th, and officially you're not supposed to get it to the 11th. And it's funny to watch the guys online who are under embargo and can't talk about it, even though everyone. Tons of people out there like me have it. I didn't sign an embargo or an NDA. but you get the Gear VR for free. So here's the caveat, guys. The Gear VR, you're not going to get it for 4 to 6 weeks. That's after they approve your submission of all your information proving you got it. I still haven't gotten the confirmation that they've gotten my submission. So I think they're really backed up on that, and so I don't expect to see the Gear VR before summertime, to be quite honest with you, even though that was something I was looking forward to. My son was looking forward to it a lot more than I was. But it also says you get a free year of Netflix when you order through T-Mobile, and I haven't gotten any information on that either. So we'll see if that happens. T-Mobile has a fun way of messing up some things here and there. I'm still dealing with some problems with my T-Mobile account, which I've said I thought I had all solved and found out I didn't. They're charging me for a phone I turned in because I already did a jump from iPhone 6 to 6 Plus.
We switched to T-Mobile on Saturday, but we brought our phones with us. I'm paying my own end-of-service fees, and we'll keep our own phones right now so that I'm beholden to no one.
Well, good luck on. I hope that they don't mess you up. But I like T-Mobile. It works fine, but it's causing me fits because this is now. How many months have I been doing it? October, November, December, January, February, March. So 6 months now, and every month I've had to call my local store here and get a very nice woman named Mary Dula, who works really hard to solve the problem. But every month I've had a problem I had to call about on my bill or something like that. So I'm beginning to get frustrated. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my T-Mobile sob story. But guys, I think we're done. I think we've gone way over, an extra long one tonight, but we've had fun, and I hope if you are looking for tips on Paperless Office that we helped you out tonight. If you've got one for us, let us know. We have a new Twitter address. I changed it because we're no longer news. We are now the Theotek Podcast on Twitter, at Theotek Podcast.
I don't think I knew that.
Dude, you didn't do anything. I've already tweeted Theotek News once tonight.
Yeah, and I retweeted him.
Yeah, no one will find Theotek News. Sorry about that. I should have told you guys. But that always bothered me. First of all, we don't write Theotek with the capital T and then capital T. I've been writing it all just one word, Theotek. And then we're not a news, we're a podcast. We are a podcast. So I switched it.
There's already 53 followers, and we didn't even know about it.
The Theotek Podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
So we're good. So find us there. Find us on theotek.com or kevinpurcell.org. You can find Rick at where?
Thislamp.com. One day I'll start writing again, or accordancebible.com.
And LaRosa can be found at?
Olivetree.com or urbanscholar.books.com.
And Antoine is over at?
mobileministrymagazine.com, iccm.org, lanyard.com, AntoineRJWright.com, and God knows wherever else.
Yes, he does, because he's the only one who knows where you really are right now, coming to us from the future. Thanks for being with us, guys. Always subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and through that, whatever podcast app you like to use, you'll find our audio version. And we hope you'll come back and join us again next week. We do this every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Sayonara.